Today, it's the halfway house. No one ever talks about the halfway house. What was that like?
I was going straight to Compton. And it's just kind of like this beat up old building. There'd be stories of guys at the halfway house getting mugged on the way to and from their car. A lot of guys end up getting there and wishing they were at the prison for the rest of it instead of having to go to the halfway house.
I think the halfway house, there's more room to fail, to mess up.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of in the real world,
Yeah, if you got freedom, yeah.
but you're not. They let me out a day early.
But I was allowed to go, so at midnight I left.
That was a great feeling, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You're listening to Criminal Code, our story behind bars.
Welcome to the Criminal Code, where we talk all things prison. I am your host, Tony, and my co-host,
Sonny?
Sonny. And today we're going to talk about the least important topic, actually, that everyone talks about. It's the halfway house.
Halfway house.
So you go from
The beginning of the end.
you go from prison to the halfway house to supervised release, but everyone's so focused on the prison part and supervised release, no one ever talks about the halfway house, and it's probably the
That's true.
craziest thing. You want to tell a little bit first about?
No, it's true because you're basically starting from scratch for your last, whatever it is, 3 months, 6 months, depends how long your term was. But a lot of guys end up getting there and wishing they were at the prison for the rest of it instead of having to go to the halfway house.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you remember before you left the prison camp that you were at, a couple weeks before that, and the feelings you had before you left? Take us down that memory lane real quick.
There were some pretty notable figures that were leaving right before I was. So they were leaving like a week or 2 weeks before me. Namely, one of my good buddies, JJ, who I'd mentioned in a previous episode, but he was the head of our Asian car, and he was leaving a couple weeks before I did. So, I kind of got to see what went down, how he got ready for it. And then he was able to actually reach out to my loved ones before I left and kind of fill them in on a lot of stuff that happens and prepped them for it. So that was kind of a blessing. But so you're like chomping at the bit. You're ready. You're like almost there. And so you're getting all your stuff ready. All you're doing is like for me, I was getting in extra workouts and basically just like walking on the treadmill forever because I was just antsy and ready to get home and stuff like that.
And make sure you don't do anything wrong before then.
Yeah. Don't get any stupid fights in the mess hall over food or something. Right
Because there goes the halfway house. Now, did you get picked? Were you picked up? Because you were here in California, and then you went to...
Yeah, I was. So I'm not sure how much detail to get into with that, but you're assigned a bus initially. You're assigned a bus, and you're supposed to take it all the way to your halfway house, and mine was probably about 4 hours away.
Oh, okay.
So you're supposed to hop on that bus, and you have a time that you left, and you have a time that you're supposed to arrive. So you just have that window. Now, what a lot of guys end up doing is they'll get picked up by a loved one, skip the bus, and then they just need to get to point B before your time so that everything's okay. So
Now, did you have to... Is that something you had to sneak around or get permission?
no, you kind of sneak around
Oh, okay.
to do it.
Geez.
So if
No one's waiting at the bus stop on
no
point B?
no, so you get a ticket, you get some money for the or for food or whatever, and you're just given a window of like 6 hours. If your bus time is 4 hours, you're probably given like 6 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember mine was like early in the morning. My camp, one of the guys at the camp with me, he's like a city driver, or his job is to drive people
He drove you to...
in and out of the city. So you go with him. I told the person that was picking me up to buy a couple burritos.
Oh, nice.
And I gave those burritos to the driver
Oh,
to take them back. to the camp, and then got picked up, and then we made the trip for probably a shorter time than the bus would take, and then we had time to catch up and things before I had to turn myself into the halfway house.
What was that like?
I was going straight to Compton.
Oh, man. The halfway house in Compton.
Straight from Atwater.
Doesn't get any better than that, man.
Atwater to Compton. And then initially, you're not even thinking about that. You have no idea what it's like. So you're excited and happy to be leaving. And you're excited for about 6 hours when you get to spend time driving with your loved one. And then you get there and you realize it's in Compton. And it's just kind of like this beat up old building. Kind of has bars on the windows, not because it's a halfway house, but because it's in Compton. So little did I know, like, I get in there, and so you're going through the whole thing from the beginning again, like 3 or 4 new roommates, bunk beds in a small little room. And, not the first night, but there definitely were gunshots around where I was. I'd heard them at night. There'd be stories of guys at the halfway house getting mugged on the way to and from their car. Mm-hmm. And a guy I knew got mugged personally. And even the point where he got, kind of got beat up, and he had to, at least get nursed back together at the ER and stuff like that. So a whole different kind of stresses for the next 3 months for me. So I was there for 3 months.
Now, for our viewers, I mean, I remember for at least what I was able to do, but were you able to leave and bring anything with you, or did you just have to go empty-handed?
Meaning, like,
if you wanted to bring anything from the camp.
I mean, you're supposed to just go direct. So, and then once you get there, they give you a whole bunch of guidelines and rules and stuff, and so they can bring stuff to you at the halfway house once you're there, and then like you get a bin. We can talk about all that. But how was your departure from
mine? Was mine was different. First, I went 3 months later because I got in trouble. Mm-hmm. But I was in West Virginia.
Okay.
So I had to take a plane.
Coming back
from West Virginia to Los Angeles to LAX. So it was different for me. I remember my last night, I pretty much was just throwing everything away, but I still had these 2 little mesh bags.
Homemade
Everyone
bags?
else had suitcases, so I had the mesh bags that.
Suitcases?
No, everyone else is bringing suitcases.
Plane,
You're flying with regular people again. So.
Okay, and were you wearing sweats and all that? as I was.
I had.
You can.
I
If you
had
know,
on my
you can
shorts,
spot
kind
them.
of like I have right now.
Yeah, if you know.
Oh, I know
you
exactly.
Spot
I'd
them
be like, that's freaking.
heartbeat.
I was there. That's the guy right there.
Yep.
I had a white T-shirt.
Yep.
My shorts. And then I'm like, all right, I better. I got onto the airport, and I'm like, oh man, this is. Ended up putting the sweatshirt on and the sweatpants to somewhat look normal, but I still checked in. I didn't even carry it on. I had to decide. I'm sitting there with the bags, like, do I check these? Do I check them in? Because I don't want to carry mesh bags on.
And what's the contents roughly?
No, I had a lot of my RDAP, RDAP materials. I didn't know if I was going to need them again, but everything else I pretty much just threw.
Because I knew guys, they had like their metal locker full of things that they'd collected over the years, and one guy was taking all of it. Like he took the vitamins that he had bought over the years, all of these things from commissary. He was taking all this clothes and blankets and everything that he made.
I gave away most of my stuff, or it hit the garbage, and I just brought home some RDAP books and all that. I just remember when I was at the airport, not the airport in West Virginia, because I had to take the community driver, take me to the bus stop take me to the airport. And then when I got to LAX to get my bags, oh man, that was embarrassing.
So you're taking a regular flight,
sponsored by the BOP.
Okay,
man.
and just get a ticket.
Just get a ticket.
Wow.
I was embarrassing though, picking up those mesh bags and leaving, man. I could just hear. Oh man,
shoot! There's that guy.
Life was hard enough. I had to go to the airport,
Yeah.
and they could just tell, like, oh yeah, this guy, he's something special.
Coming out of somewhere.
Yeah, but then all of that ended when my family was able to pick me up.
Okay, so you land in LAX,
Mm-hmm.
and then your family meets you.
My parents were able to pick me up, and my sister.
How long did you have till you had to go to halfway?
Oh, as soon as I got down, I had to call the halfway house, and I literally had maybe an hour. They would tell me how long, because they would see how long it would take to get from
Yeah,
LAX and I was at the halfway house in Hollywood.
Hollywood.
Yeah,
Okay.
so they would tell me how long I had as soon as I landed, but I always had to call. Mm-hmm. Fortunately too, at that time I had, you got your cell phone back.
Right. Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, talk about almost forgot how to use it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I had my suitcase, and parents had McDonald's for me and all that, but I got dropped straight off to the halfway house, and I got there real late too.
What time? Because you're flying
man.
across the country.
Well, we were still 4 hours. It takes 4 hours. It was a straight flight too, thank God. But arrived there around maybe midnight. So it took a minute to get checked in and stuff.
Oh, that sucks. Then there's no one there.
Then I didn't know. I knew going into it that at the halfway house, it's all security levels.
Yeah.
At least at our camps, we were with low and minimum, so nonviolent.
Yeah.
I didn't know if the guys I was going to room with at the halfway house were murderers
True.
or not. And I had to go walk in my room at
Yeah.
1:30, 2 a.m. in the morning.
I mean, a couple of the most interesting characters I met were at the halfway versus
All of them.
at the lows or at the camp. So
I saw some all-stars at our camp, but man, we had a few.
yeah,
We had a common one too, I think.
we did. He was in mine, and then a few months later, apparently he was at yours. And I don't know how you moved halfway houses unless you're doing something wrong, but
It's bad when the halfway house doesn't want you.
yeah. He was a character. What do you remember about
Do
him?
tell. No, I'm gonna let you go first on this one.
Well, for anonymity's sake, we'll call him the McLovin.
McLovin, which he probably called himself a few times.
McLovin. And he was real friendly at first.
I
He
bet.
was there. He was always roaming the halls. He'd always kind of pretend like he was sprinting, do that quick little,
The running man.
quick little sprinting in the hallways.
He's a track star.
He talked about all the records he had at Lompoc,
Yeah.
and then I was there for 3 months. Probably like a month or two in,
Okay.
I find this note on my bed. And
So you go from never getting hit on at the prison
oh yeah, because
to
everyone
finally
has
you get to the halfway house and he's
high
like, "Woo!"
incentive. Everyone has high incentive to behave at the
Right.
camp because they're getting out, and then you get there and it's like all
Oh,
different kind of
man,
characters.
yeah. It was scary. I wanted to go back.
Yeah. And
So what'd the notes say? No, I'm not gonna let you get away with that, man. I want to know what the notes said.
okay, I don't remember in detail, but I do know.
I had to try to
remember
forget.
something about my feet in the note.
Well, obviously. I mean,
Something about my feet.
what large feet you have.
Yeah. So
Did you send him a note back?
Oh heck no! I tossed that out as quick as I could, and try to avoid him at all costs.
Did he ask you why
But-
you never told him about it?
But our halfway, I don't know how big that one was, but ours was smaller. There probably were like 8 or 9 rooms, and then each room has like 4 to 6 max,
Oh, G6. Oh, I couldn't imagine.
but probably 4-ish. Yeah, but there's 3 bunk beds in there, so you could fill it if you needed to. And then a tiny little rec/meal chow hall with a TV, and an even smaller little outdoor patio with weights and stuff.
Now,
So-
for our viewers too, when you got there, was your check-in as difficult as when you got to the camp, or was it a little easier? Mine was easier.
Yeah, that
no
part's
bend
a
over
lot
and
easier.
cough.
Oh, definitely not. So that part's a lot easier. I don't think they have law enforcement officials there. They're more employees, privately owned employees that actually run all these halfway houses, and they're straight about the dollar. So, cut costs, low budget. The meals they had there were crap. And then, so you always, if your family could, you always had them bring stuff. You could keep a bin of snacks and whatever else you want to keep in there. And you had to do stuff. So when I got back, I already had a job, so I was able to
Get like the weekends.
go out during the day
Yeah.
to my office and my day job and come back. Only hard part about that I mentioned before was there was no parking, so you had to find local street parking. Sometimes you had to walk like half a
At
mile.
least you had a car.
I had a car. You had to walk half a mile in Compton at dark.
Oh, okay, that sucks.
So it was nerve-wracking, to say the least. And I mentioned you hear gunshots, stuff like that.
And
South
that's something
Central.
too, bringing it up about, because fortunately I had a job too for our viewers. If you're going to the halfway house, you really, really want to try to have some type of employment set up. If not, you can't leave.
Yeah,
A lot of those privileges that you're supposed to get. You're not going home on the weekends and.
yeah. So just so people who might be in the situation know what to expect. Like you go there, you have your daily chores. I had to sweep the floors and stuff like
No
that.
kitchen?
No kitchen.
Oh man.
They had hired people in the kitchen. So they didn't use us, but you had to do a bunch of forms and stuff and pretend like you're trying to find a job and stuff. But I could leave, but you still had to do some forms. So the halfway house pretends like they're doing something for the people or whatever.
Right. They don't give a shit.
Interesting guy I met inside was I don't know his real name. I know it's on the internet, but Debo.
For those of you who don't know, that's the big guy from Friday.
Yeah, the guy with the crooked eye. Big guy. So he was there with me at the same time.
Man.
I met him.
Get out the
we
way.
shook hands because we were assigned to sweep the floors at the same
How's your
time.
hand doing?
Nicest guy in person. And I shook his hand. We swept the floors together, mopped them.
What the hell was he
That
in
was
for
mine.
anyways?
Tax evasion, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think. Don't quote me on that. You can look it up on the internet.
No.
But, unfortunately, I do believe he passed away since that time. But I got to meet him at Halfway House. And another guy I met in there was coming from a low. I forget his name, but I had talked about doing 31 down, my workouts, and push-ups and stuff. And then he was telling me how he does 50 down.
Oh, okay.
So he stepped it up a notch or two. Man, if you do 50 down, I don't even know what that totals, but definitely close to 1,000 or
That's
more.
1,000. That's
Yeah,
at
might be
least like
1,000.
12.
I think he does
1,200.
1,000, yeah.
I ain't never did that.
So I would do a couple workouts with him, but yeah. So you're on a super high coming out. You land there, you get there, you get processed, and you're like, oh man, I got to do this again for 3 months.
Yeah, no, I want.
So then for 3 months, there's another headspace where you're stressed out and living this weird alternative universe world, and kind of got to deal with that for 3 months for me. And
How long, if you can recall, how many weeks or maybe a month before you were able to get weekend time? Mine was like 2, because I had a job already. So did you. So
yeah, you had to get permission, right? I forget.
Yeah, in order to be able to go home on the weekends. But it was,
that's right.
Man, it was burdensome doing that.
That's right. And then you'd be able to leave for a day or an afternoon or something like that. Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah, I did that. I forget. It was probably a month or so, and then by then you're kind of settled in. You kind of have your routine.
Right.
You buy earplugs to try to sleep at night. You also buy a eye mask. That kind of helps you sleep as well, because it's not like they have blackout shades or anything like that. Each of our rooms had their own bathroom, so you're splitting it with your roommates.
And it was like check-in city. I don't know about you, but it was check-in city for the halfway house I was at. What I mean by that is when you're finally allowed to get out of the halfway house, you're working, you got to call when you get there. I know I had to call if I was going to leave for lunch, but where I was working at, still the same job I have now, we rarely ever left for lunch unless we left together, but we have to call and check in.
Yeah.
And then when you leave, you got to call when you're leaving.
Yeah.
Same thing whenever you're staying at home.
Yeah.
And then they call anytime. Like, did you have to get the landline? And
No.
I had to get a
Yeah,
landline. Ours required a landline, so they would call anytime when you weren't authorized to be, like, at the mall or a restaurant with your family.
Right.
And if you weren't there,
Yeah, I think I was done when
they
I
might send the marshals.
Yeah, when I left the halfway house. So that was all. I didn't have anything. Well, I had to meet with my parole officer for probably 6 months after I left there or something like that.
How long were you halfway house for? Did you get let out early, too?
I feel like 3 months. I forget exactly.
They didn't let you out early?
I don't think so. It was 3 months.
I got let out early.
Okay.
And I told them, don't worry about it. They let me out a day early.
Yeah, something like
I kept
that.
checking in with my counselor, and she was Filipino. So I was like, I'm going to get let out early from this place. And I kept checking in. And then I was like, she's like, no, not yet, no, not yet. And then one day she called me in their office. It was that Friday. So I was going to get let out that Sunday. And she was like, I got great news for you. You can leave early.
Yeah, I think I was able to leave at midnight on whatever date that I was allowed to go. So at midnight, I left.
That was a great feeling, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Now you go.
Took all my stuff and left. But I was thinking back, there's a whole, bunch of characters there. But you go there, and there's some guys you don't see all day. They leave right in the morning. They come back at night. They do their chore, and then they're in their room. You don't see them at all. So other people, they're there the whole day because they have no job, no connections, nothing.
That was the worst for them. I remember some of those guys.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And you hear people's stories. You got all different walks of life in there. Once they know you have a job, they're kind of like seeing what you do and see if you have any opportunities or if you can hire them and stuff like that. But yeah, a whole array of characters in there.
I know I still had to go to RDAP obligations.
After?
Yeah, man.
So what was that like?
Oh, man, it was treacherous, because now I got to go through and do another new,
Was it at the halfway though? Or
No.
somewhere?
We had to go to a separate third-party facility. This one was in mid Wilshire, right off of Wilshire. So I had to go there for about an hour and a half before going to work.
Oh, I see.
So I had to get there, call the halfway house, let them know I'm there, and then we had to just sit there and literally do nothing. It was probably the worst hour and a half of my entire life. But, hindsight, look back at it, I guess it's better than being on the inside. I just didn't like being at the halfway house because I remember my roommates, when I finally started to get comfortable, I know it was a black guy and 2 Latino guys. And the black guy was like in for 20 years maybe. Drugs, big-time drugs. And then the other 2 were,
Do you remember
they're
your
gangbangers.
Do you remember your parole officer meetings after that?
Yeah.
How long was that for you? I forget. I feel like it was for a year.
No,
Once a month for a year for me.
I had to.
Like you had to check in and meet your
It
parole
was at
officer.
least for me at least once, but I ended up going in twice. I still had to do. I had drug testing.
Okay. And how frequent was that?
Drug testing too. Once it wasn't too long.
Oh, it wasn't?
Once
I
every
don't know why
quarter.
I felt like once a month I had to go check in somewhere. And
I
meet
had
up
to
with
do
the
more. I do
person.
know that, and for our viewers as well, I had restitution issues. They're a little tougher on those that still owe restitution. I know yours. You didn't have any. Like you're all paid up and everything. So
I was paid up, but I definitely met with an officer once a month just to check in and The parole officer changed like 3-4 times, but I had to go to downtown, the federal building, I think, 800 Hope Street or something like that. And I had to check in once a month. So I just, every month, I remember I'd go there, and then I'd get lunch in Little Orleans. There's one spot in downtown. I'd get a sandwich there and then go back to the office. I remember it every month.
No, but I think, though, that now that I look at it, I think the halfway house, there's more room to fail,
Sure.
to mess up.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of in the real world.
Yeah, if you got freedom, yeah.
But you're not. You know, I mean, there were a few times where I forgot to call and check in when I got here for work.
Well, and depending on
That was bad.
where you're coming from and, you know, what level you came from, like, you know, if you're a blue-collar guy and you got a job, or a white-collar guy and you got a job and you came from, you know, well-to-do and whatever, like, you kind of know how to handle it. But, like, I could see a ton of those guys from blue-collar and different type of crimes, like, they would have a hard time or could easily get tripped up on something or
Like
not
our
checking
boy.
in.
Mr. Transfer.
Yeah, Mr. McLovin.
Because he ended up coming to our facility.
Yeah, I wonder if you could get sent back, but maybe not. That's why he was going back.
He went back to prison.
You feel like?
Yeah, my understanding, because I know I was already gone by then, but you know, my understanding from what I heard, because I knew someone else that was still there, they said that McLovin was caught. These are the people you deal with at the halfway house, as opposed to if you go to like a camp or something. But he was caught exposing himself to the female prisoners or halfway house people. Like ours was co-ed.
Yeah, ours was co-ed.
Yours was co-ed too? Which still kind of surprised me that.
Yeah, well, yeah, they were co-ed. They were
It still
just different
surprised
rooms.
me that they would have.
Yeah, yeah.
I still think it would be, because we had issues. Did you have any issues with the male and the?
No, we didn't. I mean, everyone was pretty
See, we did.
calm.
Yeah, we had, you know, some of the time I was there, the first month we had, and for our female listeners out there, when you're at the halfway house, just be careful. But we had a couple guys that had to go back or got kicked out or transferred because of, like, you know, excessive bothering or stalking.
Yeah. I wonder what the permitting situation is like, because from what I know from my other friends that were also released in San Fran, the halfway house locations are always in some of the worst places of the city.
Terrible, man.
And I don't know if it's because of zoning or whatever, or
Hey, there's no halfway house in
Better
Beverly Hills.
if better cities don't want it near them or whatever. But yeah, Compton. Same with the one in San Fran that my friends went to. You know, it was like the ghetto.
Well, ours was it was a terrible part of Hollywood. I
Yeah.
know there's one in South Central.
Yep.
You were
Sort of
one
there.
in Compton.
Yep.
I didn't find any in Santa Monica or
Why
Beverly
that
Hills.
is, yeah. Or because rent's cheap and they're just trying to maximize on that or something. But
But I
that
know
doesn't help either.
No, I know too though. When I was at the halfway house, if you ever forgot checking in, when the time you got back, they had those were the times that I got breathalyzed.
Yeah.
My car got searched.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Every time you left and came back, you had to do a urine test. So you're doing a urine test all the time if you had a job, because they don't want you going off and drinking and all that. Come back.
Now, how long? Once the halfway house was done, you're like, oh yes. How long before you had that first taste of a glass of wine?
Yeah, I don't remember. I was too far back now, but yeah, I don't remember all that.
Oh no, I do.
I'm not even thinking. You do? How was yours?
Yeah, man, first night.
First night?
Yeah, man, first night. Just a glass of wine.
And mine was like midnight, so I think I just came home.
You know, just not too much though, because I know that within that 72 hour, within that 72 hour period, had to go and meet with
Another one, right?
Because now you got to go to supervised release.
Right. And that was the check-in thing every month, yeah.
Which is not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
The supervised release part.
Yeah, no, it wasn't that bad. It's just a hassle going every time. So if there's one word of advice, what would it be for someone headed there?
Oh, wow. Man, if I could turn back the hands of time, it's a toss-up. I would probably just stay at...
Is that an option, though?
I don't think so.
Yeah. I don't think...
That's a good question, and we'll try to maybe put those in our own comments or something like that. But I would probably just stayed at Morgantown for that last 3 or 4 months because I was.
Yeah.
It was by that time it was less stress than it was at the halfway house.
I have to find out, but I feel like there was an option for me to stay at the camp longer and do less halfway. But
now, see, I would have done that.
You don't know that. No one picks that when they're there, though.
Oh no, because you don't. Yeah, no.
Yeah,
you're
but
not
you
thinking
would pick
about
that. You should pick that.
At that time, you're not thinking about that because all you're thinking about is, oh man,
halfway house, visits, weekends.
Yeah. But it's the time at the halfway house because you never know who's gonna.
Oh,
be there, man. I mean, I roomed with like a big time drug dealer and 2 gangbangers.
Yeah, towards the end of your camp, like you have your routine down. There's no stress. You're not thinking about anything. You're not reacclimating to everything new. But when you get to the halfway house, man, you got to restart everything. It's a hassle.
And what about you before we finish
I
up
would,
here? What
if
would you,
that's an option, always opt for
sure.
staying at camp as long as you can.
Probably
and then going
recommend the same.
halfway, yeah.
Would you have stayed?
For sure. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, me too.
Well, I told you earlier, like, I wouldn't have taken the year and a day. Or I wouldn't have taken the... Yeah, I wouldn't have taken the year and a day. I would have taken 11.
11.
Instead of getting the early time for 10. So I would have rather stayed the 11. I think at that point, I might not have had to do as much halfway. But anyway, that's how my attorney screwed me over.
No? Hey, at least it's been, 5-6 years for us now. But that's why we do on Criminal Code what we do to give our viewers. A lot of you are going to be in different stages, whether you're just finishing up or going to prison or going to the halfway houses. So any other words of wisdom before we close it up here?
Just stay out of trouble.
Yeah, that's what you can do. Don't do what we did and get in trouble.
Don't get associated with people in trouble. That might be the case.
Not at all. But if you have any questions to all our viewers out there, put them in the comments below. We'll definitely answer those. A lot of you guys are giving us some good ideas in terms of things to talk about, and that's why we're here. But
yeah, or your own suggestions and feedback on halfway houses or anything else you've heard. Feel free to chime in.
And if you have any interesting individuals, whether it's you or someone else that is in the California area that wants to come on the show, we'd love to be able to speak with them. But thank you for joining us on the Criminal Code Podcast. And if you ain't indicted,
you ain't invited.
You ain't invited. Thank you, guys.